In this video, I'm going to share with you the 3 primary ways that you can create distinction, separation, identity, uniqueness from everyone else who does something similar to you so that you can stand out and earn the business, attract the business, get the business over any number of thousands of other competitors. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you the 3 fastest ways to create distinction and separation for your brand. We call these the 3 M's. Each of these M's represents a different component of uniqueness. Now, the first one is market. The second one is model. And the third one is method. Market, model, and method. Each of these 3 represent 3 entirely different components of your business. And if you can create distinction or uniqueness or differentiation or separation in each of these 3, then the combination of the fact that you are unique in a different way in these 3 areas added together will create tremendous distinction for you in the marketplace from everybody else. Because even though they might share a similar market, they probably have a different model. Or if they have the same market and model, they probably will have a different method. Or they certainly will have a different method. We'll talk about what that means in just a minute. So let's talk about the market first. The market is the who question. Your market is who do you serve? We say all the time, you are most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. Right out of the gate, you can create distinction and uniqueness with your brand just based on who you choose to serve, right? That is what the market is about. So if you look at us as an example, Brand Builders Group works exclusively with personal brands. We don't work with companies. Right? If Apple or Google calls and says, hey, will you come provide brand strategy for us? We would have to say, no, that's not what we do. Now, if they called and said, hey, we have an executive who wants to launch a book or build a speaking career, or we want some of our corporate, executives or managers to go out into the marketplace so that they can build the brand of Google by building their personal brand, we could help them with that. But we made a demarcation line, an intentional, deliberate decision that we only work with faces. We only work with personalities, not company logos, names, and individual humans. That is who we serve. So we immediately create separation and distinction from the hundreds of thousands, maybe tens of thousands of other companies out there that do branding, but they do branding for everybody. Companies, nonprofits, whatever, sports teams, churches, etc., and personal brands. We work exclusively with individuals. And then even inside of that, we subdivide it and we make it even more narrow to say we work with experts. The only people we work with they're either coaches, consultants, speakers, authors, or they're professional service providers. They're doctors, lawyers, accountants, or they have some specific expertise. Like we work with a lot of former pro athletes or people like that who were at the peak of their industry. So look how narrow that niche is. Look how narrow and immediately it separates us. Why do several of the biggest personal brands in the world work with us? Because we are the experts, because that's all we do. It's not necessarily because we're the smartest or the best, but over the course of time, we deep dive in this one area, which after years, it kind of does mean you're the best. You want to do the same thing for your brand. By choosing a narrow market, then the more narrow the market, the more likely you are to become the expert. You are purposefully setting it up to where you are going to be the big fish in the small pond, and you're creating uniqueness based on who you serve. Now, how do you choose who you serve? That's a little bit of a longer question, but here's a hint. Always we know that you should start by asking the question, what challenge have you conquered? What setback have you survived? What obstacle have you overcome? that is going to be a huge hint and a very strong indicator to which market you should serve. That is how we train our strategists when they're working with clients. We train them to look for the answers to those questions in the clients. Now, you could theoretically do that for yourself, but you're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. The second M in the 3M method here, or the M3 method, I guess we would call this, for creating a unique personal brand, is to address the model. What is the model? When we say model, we mean the business model. If market is who you serve, then the business model is how you serve them. A lot of people don't realize that a huge part of uniqueness and distinction and differentiation happens in the business model selection. For example, again, using ourselves as an example because we're always trying to teach what we do. We don't teach you things that we've learned from other people. We teach the stuff that we actually do and the stuff that works for us and works for our clients. There are a lot of people who teach personal branding. Even though personal branding is a narrow market, there's a lot of people who teach it. There are people who write books on it. There are people who do courses on it. There are people who have membership sites. There are people who do events and have conferences. But there's not that many people who do one-on-one coaching for personal brands. So when we got into this space, we said, what business model is unique? Not just who are the people we're serving and what's unique about them, but what can be unique about our model. And many of the people in this space don't have large teams, and so they create products and services that communicate to the masses, right? Like video courses or membership sites where they can have a lot of scale, which is great. Those are great business models. We actually teach a lot of our clients to do those kinds of things. But we don't do those things. Why? Because we want to create uniqueness. We want people to know that if you want a private human being that talks to you every single month, gives you one-on-one training, one-on-one accountability, one-on-one coaching, a actual human that knows you and loves you and cheers you on. Maybe they might not love you, but hopefully they do, and hopefully you love them. But if you're looking for a human, like a business partner, a colleague almost, as a private coach, that's what we do. There's not that many people in the world who do that. And too often, personal brands forget that they can create uniqueness in their business model selection. They often think about M3, which we're going to talk about here in a second, which is the method. But the business model selection is a really important part. How are people doing business with you, and what is different about that experience that they can't get from someone else? For example, at our events they're not just teaching the whole time. They actually do the work on the spot, and we have our strategists in the room, so the work happens in the room. That's very different from how most events operate, right? Most events you're sitting and there's a lot of people in a room. Our events are really, really small. They're like 20, 30 people. So there's uniqueness, distinction, separation in the business model itself. It's a great opportunity to add a level of differentiation or uniqueness, which is your business model. How do you serve your people? The third M in the M3 model here is going to be related to your method. Your method. If the market is who you serve, the business model is how are you going to serve those people, then the method is what are you going to provide to those people. What are you going to provide? This is your actual content, right? If you're a personal brand, this is your content. And you go, all right, well, if you're teaching productivity, and I know something about that, my TED Talk that went viral a few years ago was called How to Multiply Time. So my personal brand started where I was teaching a lot of discipline and the psychology of overcoming procrastination and just being an ultra performer in general. But there's a lot of people who teach time management and productivity. Why did my TED Talk go viral? Because I created a unique methodology called the focus funnel. How do I know it was unique? I know it was unique because I came up with it. It was out of my head. When I say me, our team, right? Our colleagues, our coaches, my wife and my business partner, AJ, who is also our CEO, right? So we came up with it, but we being internally. What we did not do is say, let's take what Stephen Covey teaches and reteach that. Or let's take what David Allen from Getting Things Done teaches and let's reteach that. You could do that if you licensed their content and you could be one of their trainers or whatever, but that's not how you're going to go viral. If you're going to go viral, if you're going to charge high fees, if you're going to be viewed as the thought leader, the go-to person in your industry, you need to have your own unique methodology. Now, this is one of the things that we actually coach people through. We have another event, it's called Captivating Content, where we actually help people extract out of their brain their own unique methodology. If you want to establish yourself as a premier authority in your space, we need your way of doing it, not regurgitating the way that other people have done it. So there's a lot to this conversation. This is a 2-day training just in and of itself. But the point I want to make here is to say, don't undercut yourself. Don't undermine your own authority. So many of our clients think, well, I'm not Stephen Covey. I haven't sold 25 million books, or I'm not David Allen, or any number of other people who teach in the time management or productivity space. And what we would say to that is, exactly, you're not them. That's great. Uniqueness is not about being like other people. Uniqueness is about being more like you. If you're teaching us your method, then you are the only source of truth on that method. People have to go to you to learn the way that you do it. So just because a lot of people don't know it, as long as it worked for you, teach what you actually do. You don't have to have a PhD, or you don't have to be the world's leading researcher. What you have to be is somebody who's walked the path. What you really need is a method that works. You are most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. So as long as it works, it's better if it's yours. It's more unique if it's yours. That's what we want, is we want to know, what did you do? And a lot of people struggle with that, and that's one of the things that we help them with. But if you start paying attention now, don't say, what does Tony Robbins teach, or how does Brené Brown do it? Ask yourself, how do I do it? How do you do it? What did you learn in real life? What worked in real life? It doesn't need to be fancy and proven and scientifically backed. It just has to work. And as long as it works, you can build a fantastic personal brand and a great business. Those are the 3 primary ways that you create a unique personal brand strategy. We call it the M3 model, right? What is M number 1? M number 1 is the market. That is who you serve. M number 2 is the model. That's how you serve them, your business model. And M number 3 is your method, your unique methodology, your unique IP, your own frameworks, your own way of doing it that actually worked in your life. As long as it actually worked in your life and for your clients, then we can build it into something. If you need help identifying your uniqueness in any or all 3 of these areas, we would love to talk to you. Somewhere around this video, you'll see a link to request a free call with our team. Or if you just want to keep consuming some of our other free content, make sure that you hit subscribe on that video, hit like or dislike to let us know what you thought about this video. And if you just have a quick question, drop that down in the comments so that we can answer it for you directly, right? We're here to help you. We want to be available to answer your questions because we want to help you succeed. We want to help you find your uniqueness so that you can exploit it in the service of others, just like Larry taught us.